Slow but good.
So what part do you want to see?
I don't want to see any of it.
Oh, then don't.
I just want to see the map with the 4 alternatives. That's all.
But Patricia gave you the
I
map.
got it. I've got it.
You got that, right?
Yep, right here.
But you want-
It is 6 o'clock. Good evening, Trophy Club, and we are opening our workshop. It is July the 22nd, and we do have a quorum. Just to let you know, Steve is returning tomorrow from vacation, so he will not be here tonight for the workshop nor tonight for the council meeting. So we're going to call into the work session item, which is presentation and discussion on traffic improvements for Bobcat Boulevard. And before we get started, I just want to say that a workshop, this is a very fun time. It's not as if we as the council are coming to this dais without having seen the information, talked about it. We each have the opportunity to visit with the town manager, Brandon, so we begin to get our questions asked. And the workshop gives us, as a council, the opportunity to just interact with each other, ask Brandon questions. This, again, is not a decision-making. We're not coming out with any action. And just to review, this is a council debrief of the work that the engineer did for this study. And after this, the staff will be taking it to the community for additional input, at which time then that will all be integrated and come back to the council again to make some recommendations. So again, this is just an opportunity for anyone who wants to talk and give your thoughts, your issues, your questions, which will help Brandon. Brandon, you are on. He's the engineer tonight as well as the town manager.
Very good. Excellent. We thought it would be easier rather than flipping back and forth between the consultant and staff. We figured we would just go ahead and handle it from the staff perspective all the way through. So let me just get to the beginning of our presentation here. As the mayor was mentioning, this is not our first night talking about traffic there on Bobcat. In fact, then it goes back many, many years, the conversation here. But recently the town council had asked that we undertake a process of really studying, understanding what was going on in the area, coming up with a number of recommendations that the town council ultimately could consider, take to our citizens and our residents to be able to provide more input into that process before ultimately a long-term decision was made about how it was that we begin to address some of the traffic issues that we have on Bobcat. Now, again, if you're tuning in tonight, this is your first time hearing about traffic on Bobcat, it must be because you don't have a student that goes to school there. And anywhere around that area. If you're trying to go to school in the morning and drop off your students in the morning time or pick them up in the evening time, you'll notice that that area of Bobcat does get quite congested. And that's because you have there the high school, you have the middle school, and then you also have Beck Elementary, all within very close proximity to each other. And at different times of day, right, students are dropping off or parents are dropping off students or picking them up, and that area can become quite congested. So as we kind of have talked about, this is really a 6-phase project. First of all, the town council went out there and did a review. Let me go to this part here. Hold on, I think. There we go. Our traffic watch and review. The council spent several days watching the traffic that morning, both in the morning and in the evening as well. Then it was to identify our key objectives, which we did. We identified some of the issues that we were seeing with left-hand turn movements, pedestrian conflicts, not obeying traffic lights and things like that, or at least the flashers for the pedestrian walkings. Then we left from that point and we began to develop solutions. So we worked with Lee Engineering, was our consultant on this. And they undertook the process of reviewing the traffic, but also developing what solutions would look like for that area to be able to begin to address some of the concerns that they saw during their observations. And then tonight, finally, we're at this point of town council debrief. Okay, so notice that we're not at decision-making process here yet, right? So the mayor mentioned that earlier. Tonight is not about making a decision. Tonight is about receiving the information that we've received back from the consultants to be able to begin to understand what are the range of options available as we begin to address this with the community. All right, so this is our study area map on it. It is obviously not to scale, but this, you'll see this pop up a little bit later. But it begins to take a look at everywhere from Bobcat Boulevard to Marshall Creek, then Parkview. You have that high school driveway number 4 is what it's called. That's the one that comes out right across from the Montessori school there. And it's high school entrance number 4. And then you also have Trophy Club Drive, all of this within the particular study area. All right, so you remember everyone was out there in January, right? We observed all the traffic going on, and we identified our key objectives. And these were the objectives that were presented at that time. So things like identifying solutions for improved traffic flow and pedestrian safety, solutions for left-hand turn movements, we covered that a little bit earlier, solutions to minimize pedestrian crossing delays, identify solutions for improved compliance with vehicle stopping for pedestrian crosswalks, identify other traffic control solutions and determine if any options provide substantial improvement over traffic guard controlled movements. Right now, we use a series of traffic guards to take care of that area where there are going to be solutions that were better than that, and then avoid diverting traffic onto neighboring streets was also one of the things. All right, so if we take a look at the current conditions, now this requires a little bit of education, but in the process of reviewing an intersection, it's not as easy as just saying that intersection passes or fails. An intersection has lots of movements to it. And so if you think about Trophy Club and Bobcat, Trophy Club has northbound traffic that goes through, and it has northbound traffic that will turn left. And then if I'm on Bobcat, I have traffic that will going eastbound, I think, and then it will turn right, and it will have a traffic that will turn left. All of those different motions get rated during a traffic study. Okay, so, and then it's going to receive a score. As it mentions on here, A through D are considered passing scores, and I've reflected those in green here on our slides. And then E and F are considered failing scores. I've included here the ones that fail, okay, for that. So there are plenty of motions in this area that pass, and I didn't include them on this particular slide. I only included the particular motions that fail. So you'll see that Marshall Creek Road at Bobcat Boulevard, eastbound traffic turning left does fail both in the AM and the PM during these peak hours. And as you kind of go through the items here, you'll see the rest of them, right? So we have Parkview Drive at Bobcat. High School Drive number 4 has 2 areas that end up failing with different levels of control, right? One of them is that southbound traffic, and then the other one is the eastbound left turn lane that goes from Bobcat into High School Drive number 4. Bobcat Boulevard at Trophy Club Drive fails eastbound left turn lane, and the Bobcat Boulevard at Trophy Club Drive fails northbound left turn lane. You notice a lot of commonalities among those things, right? Left turns tend to fail. That's consistent with what we saw when we were observing that area out there. All right, so then we asked the engineering, obviously it's not enough to just understand that it fails, but give us what happens with these areas when we begin to make some improvements to it. Okay, so they simulated a traffic control officer and what improvement that would make on these different intersections. So, and if I go from my last screen to this one, it's the same intersections in the same order, so you just need to kind of see what ends up going from red to green, really. So these are current conditions, lots of fails. And then in the current, in this traffic control officer environment, the only failing intersection turns become High School Drive number 4, both that southbound lane, right, coming out of the high school, as well as that eastbound lane from Bobcat turning left into the high school. And then you also have the failing score, northbound Trophy Club Drive traffic turning left onto Bobcat. That also fails. Again, this is a environment where we've put the traffic control officer in place, okay? If I go to the next one, all right, now I'm gonna simulate a traffic light at these different intersections, okay? And as you see, everything goes from, we no longer have any red. All of them go into passing scores. So there are various levels of D, there's a C, a couple Bs, even 1A on there as well. So this passes, all of the intersections pass under a light. And if I go to a roundabout control, then everything continues to pass, and it actually even passes a little bit better, right? So your scores are primarily Bs and a couple of As as well in that category. So that's that's what happens when we begin to present some solutions into place for the different intersections.
May I,
Please, yeah.
okay, when you say roundabout control, there are 2 roundabouts in here. Does this mean both roundabouts are active or just one?
Actually, what this one does is this one puts a roundabout at Marshall Creek. So if you consider Bobcat, right, it's going to put a roundabout at Marshall Creek, one at Parkview, and then also one at Trophy Club Drive.
Oh, this would be 3.
It does, yeah. So it adds all of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, so it basically says, take each intersection. If I put a roundabout there, what happens?
Yes.
Okay, with it.
Because each of these are taken individually.
Correct, exactly.
Sure.
So,
So, it's,
yep,
so this is maximum roundabout.
correct, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
this is all 3 roundabouts.
Yeah, this is the
That's
one
what
that
I'm
you'd
asking.
probably be dizzy on,
Yes.
right? If you actually went through it in a car. Okay.
Okay.
By the
Okay,
time I went from one,
all right.
which brings up an excellent point, which is the reality is that one solution is not going to be the one solution you use all the way through that corridor. Okay. You're not going to put everything in place at every single intersection. So the next question that we had for Lee Engineering was, give us a model that you believe addresses in the most economical way possible, right? Remembering that we have, limited resources. How would you recommend making improvements to this area for the flow of traffic to be optimized, right? Without having to make, without constructing 5 or 6 roundabouts in that zone. And that is where they came up with this recommendation right here. So this is the Word version of it. I'm going to go actually to the picture version because it's a little bit easier to see as we move through it. Yeah. So this is the map again of the area that we have of our study area. And we're going to go on the screen here, we're going to go from right to left on the way that these appear. Okay. So when the yellow arrow shows up, that's going to be showing a recommended solution at these different areas. Okay. The first one, and we know that we've had this conversation before in the past in Trophy Club, is to add a traffic signal at the intersection of Trophy Club Drive and Bobcat. Okay. Going back, remember that one does pass under that and is far more economical than the cost of the roundabout. It's about $500,000 to install a new traffic light. A roundabout in that location is closer to about $4.25 million. Okay. The next one, actually what they recommended was installing a westbound right turn lane on Bobcat. What that does is it gets the traffic out of the way and turning into the high school without blocking through traffic in that location. They also recommended putting a crossing guard there and a traffic control officer at the intersection of that high school entrance number 4. Yeah, we do not have one there today. So currently in our current setup, there is no officer at that location. Okay, they also recommended that so right now that intersection has 2 crosswalks to it, one on the west side, one on the east side of it, and they recommended just going to only on the west side of the streets for that, and that's mostly for pedestrian safety.
That means moving the one that's currently existing to the other side.
That is correct, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, they also recommended that the exit from the high school be striped so that there is a left-hand turn lane and a right-hand turn lane. Right now, there is just the one lane that goes there. Now, I'm not quite sure. I haven't taken a tape measure out there and measured if it's wide enough in its current environment for all of it, for a entry lane and then a turn lane with two different turns coming out of it or not. That may or may not require some additional capacity there in the width of that roadway. They also recommended that we redirect pedestrians to a new mid-block crossing. Okay. And that's at the Parkview Drive and the and Bobcat area. And you'll see that, you see it a little bit later on, but we'll get to the details of that one. But right now we do have students and anyone else who's in the area crossing street there at Parkview. Their recommendation is to move that to a mid-block crossing with a specialized signal for that. Yeah.
That's where you come out
Field house.
next to the field house, correct?
Correct, exactly. Yep. So this is that mid-block crossing right here. That's what that represents. Now, what they're recommending is something that's called a hawk pedestrian crossing signal. Think of it. So you're familiar with the way that you might have at a fire station. You've probably seen it before, right? The red light comes on when it's time for the fire engines to leave on it, and it kind of stops traffic in all directions because it's a red light and it stops everyone. This is the same thing in a pedestrian environment. Okay, so when it gets activated, it actually creates a red light where all traffic stops, as opposed to just a flashing light, which is what we have right now, that sometimes leaves pedestrians confused, right? Is there someone in the crosswalk? If they're not, should I keep going? Do I stop on it? The Hawk pedestrian system just creates a more I don't know what it is.
Intuitive.
Robust.
Yeah, more robust version of stopping, right? You know, it's a red light. Looks just like a traffic light when you come upon it, and it's red, and so most people then know it's time to stop. when
More
they come upon it.
interactive.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why they thought a mid-block crossing one would be better was that it would, you can cut down. Remember that one of our goals was to minimize the opportunities for pedestrian and vehicle conflicts for this, and so by doing a combined one in the middle, that there would be some solutions there. Before we would do something like this, we would want to make sure that we are working with the high school, because we would want to make sure that this, if we do something like this, that entrance goes directly into the high school grounds, right? That they're able to access the high school from that location and don't then have to find their way to another entrance. Because what that means is, and people take the shortest route possible whenever they can for it. So if there's a shorter way, they'll take that more direct way. And this has to be kind of the shortcut into the school for those who would be in that particular area. The only roundabout that they would recommend then is the one at Marshall Creek and Bobcat. And if you think about it kind of from a way, it's kind of an entryway into town. Okay, so kind of the same way that we have Trophy Lakes right now when we have a roundabout there. It's a way to kind of slow traffic in when it comes down, but it also just keeps it moving. We have a lot of traffic that goes out to the shopping area there in Roanoke, a lot of traffic that's coming in to the high schools and to the schools when it's time for school in the morning. And it regulates that traffic a little bit better than having either a light there or a crossing guard.
Excuse me, but it also might impact the cross-through traffic that we have that comes right down from 377. It might,
Good.
they may say, you know what, I don't want to go that way anymore.
Good.
But
Yep. Yeah, because the idea is that it would slow up traffic as it kind of
Right.
comes around that area, right? You know, it slows it up and everyone
Yeah.
kind of and moves it, but it keeps it moving, right? So that's the good part, but it does slow it up on it. And then redirecting pedestrians to that new mid-block crossing as well. That's something that if we put in a roundabout there, that we would want to try and do is minimize the opportunity for any pedestrian crossing there at the roundabouts. And you can do that through a lot of different design mechanisms to keep people on the sidewalk, moving them over to another location so that they would actually cross where you want them to cross, as opposed to trying to cross there close to the particular roundabout. Okay. So this is the Lee engineering recommendation. All right, when you go through all of these things, and then we ask them, okay, now go ahead and give us the scores for this entire area. How does it, working all together, how does it work if you implement all of these changes? As you can see, it actually does pretty well. A couple Ds, a lot of Cs, Bs and As, but also remember that this is our peak time we're talking about, right? This isn't 24 hours a day the way that traffic moves. Do you know if I go there right now and I try and go through this area, I'm going to travel just fine. I won't have any delays in my traffic. This is the AM and PM peak time demands and what they would look like, and our scores all pass at those levels with that. Then the question becomes, well, what about the money, right? How much does something like this cost, or the other solutions that might be in play for how it is that we treat and provide solutions to these different intersections? So here we've just simply laid them all out. Okay, so we worked with them to develop what would be the approximate cost. Now I want to stress the idea that these are approximate costs, right? And no one has done intricate design to figure out exactly what that would be. That would be the next step in the process to begin to really design solutions and then start to have some costs that are coming into that design process. But these are probably pretty good back of the napkin type of guesses here. All right, a roundabout at Bobcat and Trophy Club Drive is going to be $4 to about $4.25 million. Any traffic light solution that we do is about $500,000. Okay, so if wherever you put a traffic light solution in, that's going to be about $500,000. If we put in a traffic control officer at high school entrance number 4, that's about $15,000 per year. The Parkview and Bobcat roundabout is about $3 to $3.5 million. The Marshall Creek and Bobcat roundabout is in that same range, right? $3.25 to about $3.5 million. With it, probably some sidewalk improvements that would need to happen with that particular project. Marshall Creek, again, any traffic lights, $500,000. That mid-block pedestrian hybrid beacon, the one that we talked about, the Hawk beacon one, that one is about $350,000 of a solution for that particular area. And then how much do we spend on, if we have a traffic light, right now we don't have any traffic lights in our community, which means we don't spend any money in the year on traffic light maintenance. If we did this, traffic light maintenance for an intersection would be about $6,000 to $8,000 of maintenance costs. And what that does is, someone needs to go out there and check on the equipment, right? Troubleshoot when something's going wrong, the timing's off, reprogram the timing when we need to, things like that. All those are different fees. With it. Seeing as how we only have one, we'd probably look to outsource that and maybe even just piggyback on a community around us that probably has a maintenance contract in place with someone to help minimize the cost that we would have for that particular item. Okay. So what is the lead engineering cost is the nice part about this particular format, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, right? So all you need to do is kind of put together all the solutions that you wanted to implement, add those together, and it becomes what the total for that particular one is. In this case, the lead engineering recommendation is about $4.35 million with an annual operating cost increase of about $23,000. That's at $15,000 for the pedestrian person and for the crossing guard, and then also the additional $6,000 to $8,000 for the traffic maintenance. Okay. And I'll go back real quick and just mention one more thing. While we have a recommendation from Lee Engineering, certainly, one thing we want the community to know at this point is that it's no final decision. Obviously, the council needs to make a decision, but what we're looking for at this point really is community input into what they think about these solutions on these. What do they think about roundabouts in general, traffic lights in general, right? Doing something in this area. What do they think about the cost of all of this? How does that all work together in the decision-making process for what it is that residents feel about solutions, if any, that we need to put in place on Bobcat to address the concerns that have been raised? Okay, so we'll present these things as options, but we're really looking for the opportunity to get community feedback about these solutions before we make any final recommendation to the town council, and that would only be based on resident input that we receive through the process. So the next steps really become, because we're rocking our way through our 6-phase project. The next one becomes community input and surveys, and that begins with public input. And we would start doing that next Monday already on July 29th. We would begin by having a survey go live. We're finalizing that this week, and then also having a couple focus groups on July 30th and 31st that we'd host here at Town Hall. And we'll have a sign-up genus go out that invites people to come in to be part of that with us. And I believe that we're trying to get, 20, how many people in each one? 32 in each of those sessions is what we're looking for.
Brandon, I'm assuming that community input would also involve conversations with the school district.
Yeah, yes. Not in these meetings. We are, in fact, we have a meeting with them set up for, not next week, but the week after that, I believe, for us to go through some of these issues here, other issues as well, right? To talk about the project that's going on there at the high school.
Because anything that we do could be contingent on what they do.
That is correct.
Because they could have a whole schematic that may change the entrance and exits.
That is true.
With the stadium and all these things that they're adding. So it's going to have to see what they do first.
Yes.
Okay.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Before we
Maybe
go,
look at what we're doing and say, oh, well, then we can adjust our plan accordingly.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. Exactly.
and before we go further too, I'd like for everyone to look at this map again and look at Park View Drive in between the light and Bobcat. That is a right and left turn into Park View Drive, which is at Medlin. And there is a major drop-off there. And I've had the opportunity to speak with the SOR officer, Officer Sears, and this is a human element that needs to be controlled and managed. And it's parents, basically, dropping their children off, picking them up, and bottom line, not following the process, the order. So it's clear that the more that is not abused, it is going to back up traffic. So I think that there's that human element in here that we need the community engaged in helping to manage this appropriately. And she has made some comments, and I think they're valid. And so I just want you to see that, because that's a stopping point if you've ever been there.
Is that in reference to like southbound Parkview?
It's coming in right here at that,
Okay.
coming in.
Yeah.
Where they have to come in, drop off, and pick up.
And what, do we know what, Medlin parent here, so I'm curious,
Same.
the details.
Well,
There's 2 drop-offs. Well, actually,
Well, there's lots,
yeah, there's
it's a
multiple-
lot of options. I'm just curious what they're doing wrong.
You are charged with taking your.
I'm gonna go
kids to
figure it
school to
out.
find out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find
Yeah.
out. Give me a month, I'll figure it out. Yeah.
truthfully, some of it is parents don't adhere
system.
to
Yeah.
the flow, the standard, what's been laid out, both by the school as well as the police. And our chief's back there. Can you speak to it, please? Speaking for your,
So you're basically correct. There are 3 drop-offs, one in the front, one in the middle, and one in the gym parking lot. So you got to keep in mind, you have 1,200 kids leaving that building at once at that particular time. So you have people coming in from both north and south, turning into all 3 of those lots at the same time. And at the same time, you have 3 kids crossing the street to go to get picked up in the parking lot at the baseball fields. Right, so there's a lot of activity happening in that short period of time in that one little area. So yes, the parents do need to be a little more cooperative in helping us with the flow of traffic, but it's just a ton of people trying to be at the same place at the same time and working with us and the school personnel to make sure kids cross the street safely and parents are getting in and out at the same time. So it's a much bigger problem than just a simple switch.
correct.
So,
That's what I'm saying, because if that blocks up, it makes it block up all the way down Bobcat.
yeah, and we have parents lining up
Yes.
10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes before school lets out to get their kids.
So
to get
is
their-
that the
get-
primary
That's
friction
where the
point?
backup begins.
Okay.
Yep, parents already lined up on the street and it overflows onto the street. And so then you have people waiting, especially the northbound parents waiting to turn left to get into that when they can't.
And so this
So-
could be a school traffic, again, discussion on what do you do? I don't know, don't get me, but,
Yeah.
and I know you
So,
already
and
have.
they've done a great job on giving us that 20 minutes, but it's still, once the parents for Medlin are dealing just within the Medlin
Yeah.
zone, it takes a few minutes.
Right.
So we ask for their patience is going to be the biggest thing.
I do see folks making sure that the line keeps rolling in the gym parking lot a lot, because people try to cheat the system a little bit over there once in a while.
Yeah.
But I don't, but we shouldn't let people just camp out on the street. We shouldn't give them the tap, 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 move along, sir.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we possibly can.
And we do a pretty good job on that part.
Well, of
the
course.
kids don't always show up when they're supposed to.
And they hang out.
They hang out, you've
Wait,
got
Yeah,
parents
there's-
waiting,
Yeah.
and the kids are like talking.
Human element.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem.
Yeah,
You
that's a lot
can't
of that,
control human behavior.
Yeah, I think our goal is to really make sure that from an intersection flow perspective, right, that we've set the right solutions in place. In addition to that, our police department will continue to work with the schools on what is the best way to structure pickup
Yes.
within the parking lots, right? And that's a different environment than what's happening on the roadways, but they're related.
But they impact.
They absolutely are, yep. And so the two of them have to work together to be able to kind of figure out the best way for all these solutions to work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Chief.
Before we move on from the
Yes,
school
Chief.
discussion, oh, sorry.
No, that's right.
Were you, I'm sorry, were
No,
you
let him
asking?
finish.
Chief?
No, let Ralph finish.
From the school perspective, I mean, I know that anecdotally, for me, it got worse when Byron changed the traffic flow on their property. It got worse for the town. I can't speak to that scientifically. I'm thinking back. So I don't know if helping them define certain movements so people are going out more people are going out more of the right direction would also help. I mean, we still have to do any number of these things regardless, but I mean, that might be another thing to think of is maybe, I imagine they just made some decisions for pedestrian safety, but there might be a downstream effect. So
Yeah.
That's my only other anecdotal thing as it refers to the school aspect of it.
Thank you. Oh, okay, open for discussion.
Oh,
Didn't it?
I like for clarification, please. Go back to current and conditions, page 12 of the 186.
Was it on a slide, just so I know?
Yeah, it's on the slide.
Okay.
Yep.
Wanna make sure
Current
that we-
conditions,
this one,
right, you just
yes,
passed it.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Then go to the next one, which is your simulated traffic. Now, when you say put a traffic control, does that mean that the first slide, current conditions, is nobody? No, nobody there?
That is correct, yes.
That is correct.
Condition is
So
without-
so you can't use the word current conditions because current conditions that we currently have traffic control in our staff there, right? I'm just really for clarification, so somebody reading this, okay? So identify that, then you go, then we have all the Fs, and then go to the next one, which is your simulated traffic control. Now, is this our current staff, or is this need to be added to?
No, this would be our current staff.
Okay, so this is the current conditions, right? If I'm reading this correctly, this is how we're looking at right now.
Correct.
Right?
But wait, you did say at one point that their recommendation did add one person,
It
right?
does, yes.
At
Yeah.
at the Montessori.
So it's current plus one.
Well,
is
so, and the reports separate a little bit, and I can't remember for the purposes of this slide. They gave us, so in their chart that, in the report itself, there was a chart that had, the one for simulated traffic control officer, where they assumed the current group of traffic control officers that we had. Then at the very bottom of it, they added in what happens when you add add one at that intersection.
Right.
And
But
I
this-
can't remember what the score from this one is off the top of my head, but it's one of those.
All right, so this is, that's what I'm trying to get to. This is with or without that extra person?
I believe it's without. But I
Without,
could
all
be
right,
wrong.
that's why I was reading it when I read went to the charts. So I would ask for reclassification so we're clear on, here is just bare conditions and here's our current traffic control condition, so that when you go to the solutions and you see the adding, that changes.
Yeah.
All right, no, and the other is this uses peak hours. And is it really an hour? For example, is the high school really an hour traffic on Trophy Club Drive? And Bobcat?
I don't know if it's intended to be a specific 60-minute
Well,
section.
okay,
But
and
peak-
I'm trying to get picky now,
Yeah.
right? Because you're fixing to spend 500, no, not you, but potentially $500,000 on it, right? And if all we're dealing with 30 minutes a day, well, because this is different, because peak hours, it comes in better, right? For doing a left turn there, the value may make a judgment.
Sure,
Is where I'm
for how
coming from.
long, yeah. So-
Yeah, so if it was reasonable to define, and I went through the charts and stuff, and I couldn't really determine what a peak hour was.
It's in there somewhere. I
Okay.
find it. Yeah.
I've already told Dean I did not read the entire 189 pages, all right?
But you had.
I only did over 100. Okay. No, thank you, Mayor. I have others, but I'll wait for further conversation.
I'd like to add one little thing to that. It would be informative, to Dennis's point, to down the road as we start to narrow down what actions we might take if we're weighing option A and option B, if it could be expressed in the amount of time someone would save going through there on a daily basis. How many minutes a day do they save? I think that helps.
Problem is the hour is subjective to the day.
Right. So on an
On a
average weekday.
Friday, you're in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Especially in the fall because everybody's going to a football game. Most everybody's off campus. But on a Monday, you're stuck.
That's why
It's a good,
same reason you don't want to go to the airport on Monday morning.
right. So the hour is subjective dependent upon the day and the activities of what's going on at that school.
And Lee Engineering may be able to help us with just understanding, like, if I go from a D to a C on an intersection, what does that mean time-wise, right? Nothing about this specific intersection, but just in general, what does
Sure,
that mean?
yeah, if I'm
right?
looking
That
at
we
a-
get
yeah.
an idea of the frame here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to make a point that some type of traffic control at Trophy Club Drive and Bobcat is going to have an effect during the course of the day, because anytime that you roll up on Bobcat Drive and you want to make a left-hand turn onto Trophy Club Drive, you kind of take your life in your hands, because it's very hard to judge the cars coming from the right-hand direction, which would be
Yes,
eastbound at that point?
Yes.
Or I can't even,
coming from.
I know.
the road turns so much, I can't keep track of which way it
Yeah.
is. But from the side of the church,
Right.
it's very difficult
Yeah, it is.
all the time.
Yeah.
One thing, Mayor, if I may, that I've noticed at that intersection is people get confused, and I live a couple blocks from there, and I've had people stop at that intersection.
They think it's a
They think it's a three-way stop,
well, I
and it's very dangerous. You did it once.
I mean, I do.
But I have it happen a lot.
Yeah.
I've got a couple comments. One of our objectives, under key objectives, was avoid diverting traffic onto neighborhood streets. And you know I'm going to bring out the advocacy for Roseville to Broadway, because we're not even showing in your schematics Roseville. We're showing highway, or High School Drive number 4, which, by the way, is only 2 lanes and it can't be restriped. I walk it with my dogs every morning. So you're talking now about going onto high school property and wanting to take that property that's already platted and go in to make some street I'm not saying you, I'm talking about the recommendations.
Yep.
That turn lane in there, that's a beautiful recommendation. And as council member Bauer said, probably the high school's already anticipated this with the new stadium coming in. They're probably reworking that traffic flow. And I agree with you, Rylan, when they changed that to where you came in and went out the same side, it really impacted the traffic there to the negative for what's going through there. But if we're going to start contemplating putting in lanes, your mid-block crossing, that sort of thing, it is going to take up some of their property. Because when we step onto that sidewalk that runs along that curve, right off that sidewalk is, as you said, the field house. And I don't think they have a direct into the ingress into the high school from there.
There is.
Is it? Because it's kind of
There's
weaved
one over.
You
around.
have to, you
behind
have
the
to go
building.
through the,
Kinda
when you go through the
yeah.
fence, you go around to the side.
Right.
Yeah.
You can get in, but the field house won't move. That stadium is going to move that field
North.
north,
Yeah.
which could impact the parking lot, which may change the infrastructure of how they're doing that flow. And then they may actually take up a little more space. That would be northwest. It could widen because they're anticipating more people in that stadium. They're going to have to account for that.
Absolutely. And that's what we were discussing last week when we were talking about coordinating with Northwest ISD, because they're going to be in the design phase at the same time we'll be in the design phase. And if we can coordinate those efforts, there won't be redundancy in engineering and trying to tie into someone else's project. This is a true partnership in creating the flow coming in and out of the high school. But that's one of the things that we're looking at, but the other objectives are to create a flow at different time periods by programming, say, the light, if we go into the light. But one thing that occurred to me as you were walking us through this process is Parkview Drive, we're going to have a crossing guard that's going to be analog. And then we're going to go around the curve and we're going to have that mid-block crossing. What happens when the kids get on that and people are coming out of Parkview Drive? It's not going to take long for that to back up. And when that backs up, then that's going to stop the traffic coming out of High School Drive, and it's all the way down, it's just dominoes. So there's some questions I have about moving that over to that curve. That may not be the best place for it. If they're just trying to get it off Marshall Creek Road because of the potential of a one-lane roundabout, they might want to move it past that curve a little bit further from the field house and tie in that way.
Closer to Parkview is what you're saying, or closer?
No, closer to Marshall.
Marshall Creek, okay, so pushing up. further
Yeah,
north.
give a little bit more margin
Yeah.
between that intersection and also I don't like any kind of crossing on a curve.
Yeah.
The line of sight's cut down or diminished. Those are just my thoughts off the top of my head.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
yeah. Two things, following up on these other ones. The football stadium's going to have a great impact on what we do here, right? One, and based on what Stacy was just saying, if they do put that football stadium between the high school and that coach's building, the question to ask them is that building still going to be the civil defense building? I know that's my term. I know that's not what they're using.
The shelter
Because if
building.
it isn't, if it's going to be no longer that, then they don't need the parking lot that
The field house, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the field house.
Yeah, the field house won't, that will not change.
No, I'm saying, but the reason they reconfigured the parking lot was because they're using the basement there as, I'm using the word civil defense, as their crisis hazard building.
Storm shelter.
Storm shelter, right? And the reason that is because they're required by law or something like that. But at the same time, if they put a football stadium between it, does that eliminate it? It's just a question.
Yep.
Because if they do, then that comes back to the parking lot doesn't have to be reconfigured the way it is. The other is, we have $1.5 million with the county reserved for right now to use for the roundabout, or a roundabout. Do we have time to delay this roundabout until after we know definitively what the design of the football stadium and traffic pattern is going to be? So in other words,
Yeah.
Are we going to lose the money because we didn't do it fast enough? At the same time, spending $350,000 putting the light, and then they're going to put a fence there.
Yeah.
The commissioner said that money is there.
No, I understand.
For a long period of time.
Okay, I'm just asking for how long.
Because they haven't started issuing.
Good.
So
Okay.
when you say a long period of time, are you saying 2 or 3 years? Okay,
Yeah,
because
okay. And those are questions to ask. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, what
I mean,
we'll
we've
need to
already
do is,
talked about
once we come up with the new plan, right, what we'll do is we will put this all in writing to them, making that request based on the current plan, and then, and from what I've heard from them so far, they don't anticipate any issues with that part. They would go ahead and approve it. Timeline, they've never mentioned anything to me about like, oh, it's got to be within the next year or two, or whatever it is. I think it's open enough to be able to handle, so.
Yeah, we've mentioned it several times, and it's
Yeah.
always, it's there. I do have a question before you go far. Who are you meeting with next week at this school? And exactly what is the object?
It's the team that's doing the engineering work and design
Okay.
work for the new football
So
stadium.
they're coming with you?
Correct.
Okay, good. Okay,
And then our team as well. so.
good, excellent, okay.
And I think we have $3 million, like 3.2.
3.3.
3.3, okay.
Yeah,
the
one
county.
and a half per, it's a dollar for dollar match.
But I think Diane Edmondson said that we could apply the full amount to one if we needed to.
Oh, okay.
I think we can't. We have 3 million.
It gets back to the whole, like, it's a lot of like statements we've said, right? Once we get done, we will put it in writing
Yeah.
on that and get everything back in writing. I don't anticipate any issues with it, but we just need to make sure that we handle that part accordingly, so.
And farther into the document, they talk about crashes and they talk about truck traffic. The truck traffic that they're talking about will diminish as we finish building out. It goes back in, it goes farther.
Correct, and it was specific to obviously their observation.
To one thing, so I'm just trying to clarify that did not come into play on anything we're talking about today.
That's correct, yes.
Just like it says crashes didn't come into
Yes.
play. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and their review of the crash history at these intersections was very minimal on that, so that's always good information.
Sure, they've included the crash during the summertime
There we
for
go.
the peak hour.
And of course, the other thing, in looking at the solutions, if, for instance, you say, okay, we'll do the Marshall Creek roundabout, do in between, do the Bobcat, and we could stop and see how that manages the traffic before we make a decision to do anything at Trophy Club and Bobcat. Whereas it's an investment of a light and a roundabout. So that's an option. Question, do we have to do them all at once?
Yeah, no, we definitely can phase this for it. And for example, next year's budget, when you see it, it includes the crossing guard for high school entrance number 4 in next year's budget on that, because that's something that we can begin moving on sooner rather than later to get that part done.
Because what might happen is, let's just say you take those 3 and we don't do anything at Bobcat and put a traffic crossing guard there, 2 or 3, we might find we don't need a light
Correct.
or a roundabout.
The thing about a traffic light that hasn't really come up is that changes the perception in the town feel of Trophy Club. And that makes us cityfied. I'm sorry, I can't stand the light. We
I've
need-
heard the feedback a lot. We all have.
Okay.
And that's why,
The aesthetics is
And
gonna
if
get
it's
it.
across the street from your house, you're going to really.
Well, if you put a sidewalk, then I'm moving.
I've joked about it, but over the years, but it is absolutely true. And that's why Jeanette's idea of maybe wait a while before we have to say yay or nay to one is not the worst thing
We
in
have
the
a
world.
chance to talk about this again, but
Yeah.
we have citizens' input, right?
Right.
Maybe this needs to be just brought up. What do you think?
Yeah.
I,
Well, and that's what
And
you-
now we're not trying to put words in their mouth, we're trying to listen to them.
I was an early skeptic of roundabouts, mainly because people didn't know how to drive in them. You know, we're beyond that now. And
I still don't.
Well, there's a lot of things. Yeah, let's have a workshop on why people can't drive. I do think. I mean, the numbers demonstrate what we've all learned over the last decade plus living in this general area, which is that roundabouts do a better job of moving traffic than other solutions, which is great. I think back and I'm like, man, how great would it have been in 07 and 08 if Bobcat and Trophy Club had just been a roundabout from the jump? We'd all be in a lot better position and so on. So I say all that just to say that one day, if we don't do it in the next 2 years, the conversation will come up again in 5 or 6. So it's just something to keep in mind, even though obviously everything has a very large price tag. That's my only other thing to add to this, aside from a small thing about the school aspect of it, relative to the stadium. Should also probably make sure that both Roanoke and the school district are on the same page that there is adequate new signage out on 377 to push as much ingress from out of town to 377 and Bobcat, because that's really where it should be. If you're coming from out of town and you're the visitor, that's really where you should be going in.
Correct, yeah.
Put a speed bump
You know,
there.
people are going to be using their app on their phone, and it's going to tell them what to do based on the amount of traffic. So,
Yep.
you know, if we do too good of a job here, then every Friday night there'll be people coming through.
That
You
is
know,
correct.
so
Yep. Yep.
something to keep in mind. But other than that, I appreciate all the data. Look forward to talking further.
And really the issue, not the issue, because it will be done, but it is 4 hours out of the day, 5 days a week, how many weeks a month, a year? So you look at the amount of cost, the cost benefits, basically. So it has to be done. But again, it's a lot of money for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And like Steve said, maybe 4 days a week.
Yeah, and that's why both our survey and our focus group sessions will include this element of money, on that, for the benefit that you get out of it, on that part. It has to be a part of the equation here for that conversation to really have meaning at the end of the day.
And it's safety, okay?
Oh, sure.
And how do you put a price tag
No.
on safety?
And I'm not saying no by any means. I'm just raising the questions, cost benefit question.
Yeah.
One observation is going to be when we start having home games at the stadium, just like Ryland said, all this traffic isn't going to come off 377 and come down Bobcat. It's going to come down from, it's going to come down Trophy Club Drive and take a left on a Bobcat.
You're looking at 12,000 people.
Yeah.
That you're
You-
gonna put-
Now, this may just be during Friday Night Lights, but it's going to, if there's not a signal there, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, trying to bring in that number of people on Friday nights is going to be
And getting them
So-
back out.
difficult.
Does the next workshop include an update from NISD? Like,
No. No, because it depends on where they are in the process. If they are ready to kind of share some things that are going on, then we can probably try and include that information.
because all
Or-
of this is kind of a moot point unless we have that information. There was no way we could make a decision until we know what that looks like. And if they're not even touching the stadium because they're doing it at Eaton first, and they're doing our pack and our cafeteria first, there's no reason. Or if they do our stadium first, we could be talking in something within a year. But if they don't, we've got another 2 to 3 years.
I'd say that the one that is the most, the map is gone, but the one that is most dependent on what the school is doing, I think really is the idea of doing a mid-block crossing. That's probably the most important part to coordinate with them as far as what's going on. the out-of-school stuff, whether or not, they, I would hope that they're going to be widening that exit point and making it a little bit easier for people to get in and out. I hope that would just be part of their design because they are going to be putting a lot more people in parking into that facility. It makes sense that they're going to try and optimize people getting in and getting out a little bit easier out of the way that the entrances are designed. But those are obviously conversations with them. We wouldn't anticipate those being our projects anyway because they're on school property. So we would have to coordinate with them those particular improvements. Notice that there's no money on our bucket for the things that involve high school 4 entrance on that, because that would be kind of the entrance for the school being improved for that. So but those are all conversations to be had with them about that part of it. So, but whatever it is, right, that they're going to be designing some traffic flow in and out of that location that is different than it is today on it. And, whether or not it is more entrances, though, becomes a question on that. And I don't think realistically there's probably more entrances. I think they're probably going to look at widening entrances, right? And then considering whether or not for signalization of those intersections makes some sense.
The side by the water tower is your best spot that they'll widen, and then the spot over here. They won't make any changes from the field house on that curve and over because of the infrastructure that's underneath that ground.
Okay.
They can't change anything. There's HVAC systems and everything that run underneath, so they won't change anything. So if we put the midline block right there, they're not going to change anything on the school side of that. Okay. So everything will be on the opposite ends.
Yeah, so we will definitely be talking with them and trying to coordinate. Part of where we are right now, right? We need to get to the solution of things that we want to see as a town and that we're okay with before we kind of really approach them and say, these are the things that we want you to actually figure out with us, right? As opposed to, well, maybe we're going to change it now and maybe in a year from now it changes again, right? We need to be very clear about the things that we want to see happen there.
I know, and I'm not, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying install a signal light. However, think outside the box. When I think of a signal light, I think of these tacky things. Go in and just do a search on the internet and look at traffic lights today. And I think it would do us well as a council to look at them because who knows? I doubt it, but the town might say we want a signal light there. Give yourself an option and look outside of what we know and look at the internet because there's some really cool designed new traffic lights hitting the market. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, we can
Think
definitely
outside the box.
But whatever we do, I would recommend that we do it with, making sure that the materials match the current infrastructure we have over there, right? We have very nice light fixtures and things like that. We would need to make sure that everything looks very good.
Well, and that's an important thing to bring up during the community engagement aspect of this, right? Is to really get down to specifics about, well, what is your opposition? I mean, I can tell you mine and get specific if I had to think about it, but I, to be honest, haven't really thought about it. I mean,
Gives you
Not bad, yeah.
So that would be one thing they'll have in maybe the focus group studies, some pictures. Any other comments?
Jeff brought up safety. Okay, in here, we have the number of crashes. There's been 22 crashes in the last 20 years. 10 years, excuse me. And has there been any pedestrian incidents in that time frame? Because none of these, very few of these involved any
The
injury.
chief is saying yes.
There's been golf cart, there's been.
In the evening, dusk, an individual walking across Parkview in Durango, hit by a van. They were injured, they weren't killed or anything, but that was 2000.
Did it have anything to do with the schools or
2013?
just somebody crossed?
It was after school hours. I think that's 2013, so that just.
And that would have been outside the study area there, that particular location. That's a little late right there.
Other comments before we close this workshop? Was this
I'll
a
make
good
one last
experience?
comment is that we do anticipate coming back to the town council. So we're going to collect input from the public, then we're going to bring back ultimately, feedback from them, any changes that we're making to the current plan, so that we can have another council workshop on September 9th, where we try to actually make a decision on what is the recommended package moving forward for that. Yeah. And that may take a meeting or two. It's okay for it, but we want to make sure that we are scheduling this up for success.
Is that when we set the tax rate? Good time to think about it.
Where's paper? No?
Dennis.
No.
Okay.
Hey, y'all, I want to show you something. You see this? This is what Dennis came prepared with tonight. 1, 2, 3. This is his backup information. So it's good that he had something to do this weekend.
Yes.
Okay, we are going to adjourn at 6:54, and we will begin our regular meeting at 7 o'clock. That gives you 6 minutes. is 7 o'clock. Good afternoon, good evening, Trophy Club. We are reconvening into our regular council meeting. This is July the 22nd, and it's 7 o'clock. And our council is quorum, however, Buddy Steve to my right, Mayor Pro Tem, he's on vacation, he's flying. I hope he gets on an airplane and gets home, but you never know these days. Anyway, I am so happy you're here, and I just, again, always want to invite those who may be watching online or will pick it up later. We appreciate you paying attention to what's going on in your town, being a part of what's happening, because the more you know, the more you get involved. And I really do believe people support what they create. And the more you're involved in creating the town to be what you want it to be, the more you'll support it. So we are thankful for our pastors. And this evening, if you will stand, Bill Eason from United Methodist will lead us in prayer. And again, thank you very much.
Let us join together in prayer. Almighty, merciful, gracious, and loving God, in this moment of prayer, we seek refuge from the chaos of our surrounding world. Give to us your peace and your grace. Remind us of the sacred nature of these moments with important work before us. Remind us that what we do in this town council meeting affects many people in the community we share. Bless now all who gather in this place. Bless the town council meeting that lies before us. Bless those who lead us. Bless our first responders who protect and watch over us. To those who lead, grant the patience of cooperation. For discussions encountered here, grant clarity of thought. For decisions made here, grant the courage for truth. Let us be surrounded with your grace as we practice discernment, wisdom, and vision. Keep ever before us the broken pieces of our life together, places of despair and disappointment, places of pain and injustice, places of neglect and abuse. In our world today, it seems we are surrounded by so many extremes. We are often tempted to take the short journey to an extreme position. Remind us that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. Remind us of our love for you and our love for our neighbor. Help us to keep our vision and our purpose towards the common good of all people, a vision that benefits our children, grandchildren, and future generations. As we journey together, set our hearts to beat in rhythm with yours, and blend us with all people of goodwill, both in this place and beyond, as this community stands as a beacon of hope, of peace, and of justice. For this we pray in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Dixon, do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
No public comments. And we do not have a community spotlight, so instead of me working on a packet like Dennis did, I thought I stepped back and I started thinking about a few things that I'd like to share with you right now instead of the community spotlight. And so I want to speak to our community, the people in Trophy Club living together in 4 square miles. When I talk about Trophy Club, I talk about 4 square miles, 13,600 people smashed into 4 square miles. It's a unique opportunity. And within that is the spirit of our community, our unseen bridges. You know, if you will take a look at somebody giving high marks to a town, it's always about the streets are in good condition. You see the streets. Well, there are unseen bridges in a community, and that's trust, respect, compassion, encouragement, love, and memories that have built up over the years. All of these lay the groundwork for wise, long-term investments and decisions that we make for Trophy Club, as well as they give us a foundation which our culture continues to grow, evolve, and develop. And when I say we includes you, the community. You are the heart of our community. You invest your time and your energy, and you let us know what you think, what you want for Trophy Club, and you do your part in keeping Trophy Club a great place to call home. And I thank you, and I'm hoping the council thanks you. We love our community, we love the people, and again, too, the more you connect with us, we connect with you, the stronger our community will be. I also want to say thank you to the council. As we put ourselves out there through an election, then we are tasked to listen to the community, we advocate for the people, and we make ourselves available. And then to the town staff, leadership, and every employee, we thank you. And we have a lot of you in here today right now, for acting in Trophy Club's best interest and for the right reasons. We appreciate you, I appreciate you, and I know the people in this town today appreciate you and have experienced a very different opportunity of interacting with the people, the men and women who manage and lead this town. And I want everyone to celebrate the community's togetherness and the future prospects of Trophy Clubs that's strengthened by those unseen bridges, as demonstrated by all of our actions. And now you wonder, why in the world am I sharing this with you? Well, I'm going to tell you why. And that is, on a weekly basis, I promise, people will come to me and say, Mayor, I don't know what's happening in Trophy Club, but you know what? It just feels good. And I am going to sit back and I immediately embrace this whole team, the people, the council, the leadership that has made the difference. And it permeates out there. Just yesterday, he said, I don't know what it is, but it just feels good. And so I share this with you in good faith because I'm committed to keeping Trophy Club a great place to call home. And I'm confident that every one of you who may be listening also would agree that Trophy Club is a great place to call home. And I thank you and I appreciate you every day. That's my community spotlight. There you go. Next. Update from town council members. Anybody? Surely something's happened this week.
I'm quiet. I like quiet.
Well, we haven't met since the 4th of July, so I just wanted to, express our gratitude to staff. I mentioned it to Brandon last time we talked, but I mean, it's a long day with a lot of work for everybody involved, and it really is, to me, like the biggest community day in Trophy Club. And every year I'm always like, I'm glad we do all this, so appreciate everybody putting in their long hours and everything else as it relates to that. That's all I have. Oh, it's my parents' 47th wedding anniversary. So
47 years.
How about that?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I was like, why am I looking at July 22nd like it's meaningful? And then it hit me, so I'll say something. Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Dennis? Nobody? Well, I think I've just said what I was going to say, but I'm glad to see everyone. And again, we're working for you. I will say one other thing, because I did have a very important person in Trophy Clubs tell me a couple of weeks ago. She says, Jeanette, it's always Jeanette, I don't think I've ever experienced as much interaction between the council and the town and the people as I have over these last months. And that is a big, big deal, particularly as we continue going out to the people, wanting them to give us their time and their thoughts and their energy. That's a very important piece of this pie, is the connection that we have been able to make with the town. And so that was something I want to share. That was from a very important person in this town. Anybody else? Okay, you're up, Brandon.
All right. First of all, we wanted to make sure to announce that there is the Community Pool Complex Public Engagement Event. So we will be, if it's not out there already, we'll be putting out information very soon, inviting the public to come and to participate in our community engagement session for our public pool. Let's see, this is your opportunity to share your thoughts and ideas regarding the amenities and features that we'd like to see there at the pool. During each event, residents will have the chance to engage with town officials and consultants from Park Hill to discuss their vision for the community pool. These events are going to be held over 3 different days. First of all, July 29th from 8:45 in the morning until 10:45 in the morning. That particular session is designed more to make sure that we cover input from the swim team as well as those who take lessons there at the pool. Then on July 30th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., we have a session drop in. Go ahead and share your thoughts about the pool. And then last, the most exciting one is on August 3rd, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. We want to make sure that we invite as many residents as we can. So we're going to make it a free swim day at the pool. So come by, swim for free, provide your input. Can't beat that deal for the day. Exactly, Dennis, we'll see you there.
Don't want to see me in this one.
We'll reserve one of the chairs for you. All right, so that's 3 sessions that we have, again, July 29th, July 30th, and August 3rd. There's information online as well as our social media about ways to participate in that. We also have our Bobcat Boulevard community input sessions as well coming up here soon. So we just covered a lot of information about the Bobcat Boulevard. I won't rehash that. However, please know that beginning on July 29th, we will be distributing a community survey to gather crucial information about the solutions that have been proposed by Lee Engineering. We really value the community's feedback on that. It's instrumental in really making sure that we have a well-supported decision at the end. Also, we have 2 public input sessions for that. One is on July 30th, and that will be from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. And then the second one will be on July 31st. That will be from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Information about signing up for that will be available on the town's website as well as our social media channels as well. And again, we welcome everyone's participation in that public input. Then we have upcoming boards and commission meetings. On July 29th, we have a special Parks and Recreation Board meeting. That's at 6 p.m. I would encourage anyone who loves pickleball to be there at that meeting. We've been working a lot with Park Hill to develop solutions for, not Park Hill, I'm sorry, McAdams, to develop solutions for pickleball in our community. They've given us 3 options. The Parks and Rec Board would be considering those 3 options during their meeting to make a recommendation to the town council. So we're excited about progress on that objective. And then we also have on August 1st, our planning and zoning meeting will be here at 6 p.m. as well. Last but not least, while we do love taxes here in the town of Trophy Club, there is a tax-free weekend coming up here soon. And that will be scheduled from August 9th to August 11th. During that period, sales tax is exempt from certain qualifying items. So things like clothing, footwear, school supplies, and more. So if you have a student going back to school, it's a great time of year to get your shopping done. Again, that's August 9th through August 11th, and that's all over the state of Texas. So you can visit the Texas Comptroller's webpage for more information about that particular sales tax holiday. And that is all that I have.
What day, again, is the P&Z meeting, please?
And that one is on August 1st.
Okay, I'm just going to announce it.
Oh, please. Mm-hmm.
Because the P&Z will be looking at the monument that's been proposed to be placed out on 114 for the town center. And I would encourage everyone, if you're listening to me or in the room, to come into the P&Z meeting that night and give them your perspective, what you want, what you don't want, just like you do in other opportunities. Place to help vet a particular recommendation is at the source, and that is the board, the planning and zoning. And they then will make a recommendation to the council. Again, that's on the monument. And again, what date was that? August? Your
August
mouth is
1st.
full.
August 1st.
August 1st.
Thursday.
August 1st.
August 1st. I'm so sorry. I'm already ready to get finished with all.
Feels like it can't be that soon, but it is.
Okay. Anyway, August 1st, be there. P&Z meeting. Anybody else want to comment on the P&Z meeting coming up? Okay, thank you.
A lot of people up here have been to a lot of P and Z meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. 2, 3, 4.
Stacy, thank God, that's not my deal. So. Rather, I go say that's good, and that's not mine. Okay, so we are ready for our attorney's civic tip. I love this.
All right, quick civic tip. I understand there's been a lot of questions about franchise utilities, how that's supposed to work under the ordinances, charter, state law, federal law. So I thought it'd maybe be helpful to provide a little bit of information. You do have a charter provision that outlines how franchise utilities can operate within the town. Part of that includes a provision in the charter that exempts them in a way from having to provide any kind of ask any kind of permission to operate inside the right-of-way. I hope that they're not operating outside of the right-of-way. So that's something that you should pay attention to. Are they actually within the right-of-way? And in addition to your charter provisions, and of course the charter is tailored to state and federal law, and you can kind of read that into the charter as you're looking through it, but then you also have a very robust ordinance. And so one of the things in your ordinance in particular requires the franchise utility providers, whenever they're doing work inside the right-of-way, they should be doing a door hanger. And I hope that they're doing a door hanger because that's required in the ordinances. Another thing that's in the ordinances says and this is Article 13.04, it's Section 13.04.004, use of right-of-way. It says any portions of the right-of-way that are any way disturbed by the construction or repair of facilities shall be restored and maintained to as good or better condition than existed previously. The provider's maintenance obligation shall continue for 2 years after completion of such work. So you have a lot of information available to you in your code of ordinances and additional protections that I actually haven't seen in a lot of other municipalities. And there's even penalty provisions for failure to follow the ordinances.
Good. That's very good. How many have had them digging in your yards recently? They were in my yard this morning.
You should be a good leader. You should tell them that you're going to be the last house in Trophy Club.
I did go out today and visit with them, but that was all. I didn't say anything.
The other thing is, I was thinking of this while we have it in public, and Matt's here. I've seen where they put a couple of pieces of sod around, but if you don't water that, it's just totally dead within 24 hours. So they have to not depend upon the homeowner to water that. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very good civic tip. Thank you very much, Dean. Okay, we were next. This is going to be a quick evening, so go for it.
Consent agenda. Item 3, consider approval of the June 24th, 2024 Town Council work session and regular meeting minutes. Item 4, consider approval of consolidated radio communications interlocal agreement between Denton County Sheriff's Office and the Town of Trophy Club for the use of radio communication system for fiscal year 2025. Item 5, consider approval of an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024 budget to increase construction inspection fee revenue and professional engineering services in the Community Development Department by $68,000 for additional construction inspection services related to Trophy Club residential developments.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda number 3, 4, and 5.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jeff second. Jeff Beach seconds. Oh, wait a minute. All those in favor, raise your hand. I am ready. And all those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Item 6, individual items, presentation and discussion regarding an update from the Arts Commission Ad Hoc Committee on development of an Arts Commission in Trophy Club.
Good
Thank you.
evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name's Tamara Smith. I'm the assistant to the town manager. This evening, I have the honor of introducing you to a change maker in the world of arts and culture. But before then, I am going to give you a quick background on the topic for this evening. So back in September of 2023, Council decided to approve a resolution that established the Arts and Culture Ad Hoc Committee for the Town of Trophy Club. And what that was for is to research the opportunity of creating a Arts and Culture Commission within the Town of Trophy Club. Part of that resolution stated that within the year, we would have to come and provide an update. And this evening, I get the opportunity to introduce our facilitator. A quick background on Margie Reese. She has 45 years portfolio in arts management. She held the position of executive director and general manager for cultural arts in Dallas and Los Angeles. She was appointed by the Ford Foundation as their program officer for media, arts, and culture based in Lagos, Nigeria. Returning to the United States, she accepted the task of creating an arts council for Wichita Falls, Texas. She served as an executive director of that agency and hired and trained her successor. She is currently a consultant in residence for Mid-America Arts Alliance based in Kansas Town, Missouri, and the Western States Arts Federation in Denver, Colorado. With that, I'd like to introduce you to our Arts and Culture Facilitator, Margie Reese, who will be providing an Arts and Culture Ad Hoc Committee update for you tonight.
Thank you.
You know, I'm used to there being a marching band and a drum roll and all that, but it's okay.
Margie, we're glad.
And school's not in session, so.
Oh, that's the deal. That's right. Okay.
That is a big problem. Right.
Well, it's my pleasure to be with you all this evening and to share just some highlights of the work that I've had the fortune to do with the ad hoc committee over the last several months. You have a report in front of you, but I'm just going to give you some bullets to sort of summarize the work of the committee. Let me first acknowledge the committee members. Candace Dillard is our very lively chairperson. Wanda Brewster, Melissa Eason is the vice chair, Jean Frazier, Janet Greedy, Beth Ann Sands, and Carol Tambari, who's here with us this evening. I really appreciate each one of them for taking the time to think about arts and culture for the town of Trophy Club in sort of an umbrella look, just a general view, not necessarily looking at programs or activities or specific things that we would do here, but looking at procedures, the how and the why, creating a local arts agency. In our first meeting back in March, we started talking about what is a local arts agency. What does that mean? So without giving it a label as a council or a commission, but just defining the work of such an advisory body in a city. We took a look at the definition of what is a local arts agency. In thinking about that, we looked at the definition as prescribed for us in the field by Americans for the Arts, which is our national arts service organization. And basically, Americans for the Arts defines a local arts agency as a nonprofit or a local government agency that provides support, services, financial assistance, and developmental planning to advance the arts in a community, a town, or city. In early May, we spent 2 days together on site. The committee members arranged a series of conversations and interviews that they accompanied me. We interviewed the director of the park department, the area chamber of commerce director, some individual artists, and I'm proud to tell you that you have some fantastic professional, nationally recognized artists living in the town of Trophy Club. We visited with the Fine Arts Theater Director for the school system, who talked about the work and desires for more arts for more young people in the city. We learned a great deal from these conversations. In addition to that, the committee members were given a list of questions so we could ask the same question to their neighbors and friends in the community about their interest in the arts and their potential for supporting the arts in the town of Trophy Club, et cetera. That same visit, we did a tour of the city, and we looked at the city's park system, including Harmony Park, Trophy Club Park, which is and the pavilion that's just begging for artists and audiences to come together. We even looked at the dog park, Independence Park, and the Veterans Memorial, including one of our last stops, I think, was to a building that you'll hear me talk more about in the future. I'm going to try to say the name right, the Mud Annex. It's begging for arts and arts activities. There's a big neon sign out of art, more art, more art. Okay.
Who's paying you?
You. All of you. We saw some good models for some aligning projects, perhaps with the park department as they're doing some master planning, looking at earned income opportunities, looking at classes, arts and residential spaces for artists to interact with the community. And in that visit, we also did some background learning and went through the Secretary of State's hot tax, document that talks about how you can use hot tax funds, just to give the committee some, barriers around how those dollars could be spent. And at the end of May, we brought that information back together and took a look at the initial mission statement that the ad hoc committee had put together prior to my coming. And then we used that information to sort of expand it a little bit to be a little bit more inclusive. And we reframed that mission statement, which you have a draft of now in your notes. I think all of this work is leading me tonight just to tell you that, in my opinion, the town of Trophy Club has the necessary tools to create a local arts agency. The committee has some ideas about, the kinds of programs that should be done, but I've kept them from programming. I've kept them at this higher level space to talk about policy and procedures. And at the end of our work together, you will receive their input on a standard operations and procedures manual. Where we'll include everything from processes for commissioning public art. And by the way, you have some amazing spaces for the installation and commissioning of public art in the town. You'll hear us talk about how to work with public school systems so that you can partner with the school system to create in-school cultural arts and programs activities, as well as out-of-school time activities. One of the important notes that I heard from the theater teacher here is that during the school year, kids have access to arts, primarily theater programs. In the summer, those programs are unavailable through the schools, and we know that the summer learning loss for kids K through 12 is extreme all over the country when kids are not engaged in any learning activities, whether it's library programs, reading, arts, et cetera, that there is a potential for them to lose some of the knowledge that they have gained. And so at the beginning of the school year, there's some catch up. So if you can involve kids in arts programs in the summer, it improves their literacy rates, encourages them to read, and post-COVID, it encourages and grows their social skills. That's a commercial for more art in the community during out-of-school time. So I just want to say in closing that the ad hoc committee's work is not done. We have some more sessions to do as we investigate some of the initiatives that I've presented to you as ideas only. So the committee will unpack all of those initiatives, make sure that we are providing some practical guidance on how to deliver any of those. They'll prioritize those as a recommendation to you. And I look forward to continuing to work with them and am open to answering any questions that you guys have about my comments tonight or the document that you have in front of you. Thank you.
Questions? Comments?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Margie. And I was at one of the meetings where you started out with, and I really thought it was really good in the way you processed it. And I want to thank all the members of that ad hoc committee. Good job. I like what I hear and see. A couple of critique, not criticism, just critique.
Sure.
As you write this, it's commission to me means you have authority to make decisions and do something. So I'd rather see it changed from to a cultural committee or board. The other is, while I may have confidence in everybody that's currently serving, in the future, the wording of this could be, it has to be interpreted several years down the road. So therefore, those places where it says that solicit and manage grants, well, until they're a separate organization, that means to me that they need to assist the staff to get the grants. Now, as they develop and if they become a nonprofit or something different later on, then that's different. But I'm talking about right now. And there's a couple of places in here where that that wording is, develop and adopt measures. Well, so that's my comment. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Margie, really good.
Thank you. I appreciate those notes. We'll certainly take a look at them. And I just want to add an expanded understanding of how we use the term commission in the arts world. It is causing or enabling arts programs to happen and to exist. And so you're absolutely correct. In no case could that body, whatever it's called, solicit public funding without going through this body. You wouldn't get the grant anyway. And the second point was probably not that important because I can't remember what I was going to say. But I'll come back to it.
No, I understand, and I'm just trying to correct things because we look at things 4, 5, 6 years later,
Absolutely.
and the wording can be interpreted by different people.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure we have an opportunity to get it right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can make those edits.
Other comments on this? Luann?
Margie, I just love the cultural part of this also, and I love where you mentioned our original fire station. So we've only been around since 1985 as far as municipality, so we don't have that much that we can lean in on, but I like that idea.
Thank you. And I do want to just elevate that idea because this area has an important place in Texas history. And so one of the first initiatives that you'll see in the document is to really start doubling down on documenting the history of this geographic region, even before the town was created. It's important for your kids to know and subsequent residents as well. And the Texas Historical Society is a fantastic resource that already exists, is funded by your tax dollars, and so they can be brought in to help you document that. And I was telling Tamara earlier that I went down a rabbit hole the other night thinking about Bass.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Bass, I'm not like an outlaw chaser, but kids love that kind of stuff, So some of those stories can be animated, kids can write books about that, and storytellers can begin to share. But also, the more contemporary stuff as well. So you'll need to have a history. And then the elements that you can preserve, like some of those in the lobby here, are important and can be expanded into larger exhibition programs. So
We need to find the barn and bring it back.
Yes, we need the barn.
Yeah.
well, I was going to write down, let's do a barn raising, but I didn't think you'd go for it.
Like everything in TrophyClub, we have to find a place to put it. Just knowing the story of that structure
Absolutely.
is important, and it's not something that everybody knows about. So yeah, thank you, Ms. Reese. I really appreciate it. I would say from my perspective, having lived here for almost 20 years coming up here, we have a tendency to be insular in Trophy Club. I mean, it is truly an enclave. You get here and you feel separated from the outside world, and that one of the reasons why it's great to live. It's quiet, and your mind is calmed. But I'll get a little philosophical on you here for a second. But arts, to me, whether it's arts or music or storytelling, literature, or whatever, it's a way to connect to things outside of your perspective find common ground with people that have a different perspective. And so I would simply ask, and I'm sure you all have had conversations like that, that's a focus of what we do here. Because, we have the history angle, like you said, we have so much here in terms of nature and then and any number of other things. So I appreciate that y'all made this a priority, last year before I was on council. Quick question for Brandon. Is there any aspect of this within reasonable bounds that can't be funded by hot tax? In terms of just arts programs, arts installations, art.
Yeah, there are boundaries for it. However, general art programming can be funded by the hot tax up to a certain percent. And I don't know why right now I think it's 15% of, is it 15? 15% of how much you receive in hot tax funds, right? So you're limited on the amounts you can spend, and in addition to that, the types of things you can spend money on. Yeah. But it is kind of wide open, right? Anything in that art category really is going to be okay, as well as history as well. Historical buildings, things like that is also eligible.
It's a shame to hear that they've capped it. Every time we talk about hot tax, in this room, there's always some reason why we can't use the money. We are prodigious at collecting it and terrible at spending it. So I just asked the question simply to say, in this setting, to think big.
Yep.
Okay. I also think, I believe, and this came about because when I was on the campaign trail a year ago, whatever, art, culture just kept coming up. And I said, oh, okay, so what do we do? And I started looking at it. I said, yeah, Flower Mound has an art and culture commission, others do, and others do. I never anticipated that we would have you to lead us through this journey. And I just want to say thank you, Brandon, for bringing Margie to us, because she not only is capable, she has a grounded history in Wichita Falls, in Dallas. She's embedded in the Dallas culture, the Dallas art, the schools. So she's just a wonderful resource to our little town of Trophy Club to build our art and culture commission. And in addition to that, based on what you just said, I think that we have the opportunity to use art and culture to incorporate and connect with our Westlake. We were plucked out of Westlake. And Roanoke, we were a part of Roanoke at one time. So we are a big family. And my hope is that our Art and Culture Commission will be recognized outside of ourselves as a trendsetter, and we can get grants and money to support this whole project. This is a past my lifetime project, but I think it's going to be fabulous for Trophy Club. Thank you so much, Margie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I had no idea how we would get from point A to where we are today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, Margie.
Thank you.
Okay, do we want to adjourn?
Do we keep going to 7:47?
Sure, why
I have
not?
a bet on that.
Did we get through this?
So I'll make the motion.
I move that we adjourn. Well, I'll second Jeff's motion.
Yes.